So this one's going to be a little different today um, because for the first time I'm speaking to someone I don't know. And um, well, you'll hear more about it when it starts. His name is Rob, and he is doing his own project to meet 10,000 people. So I just sent him an invite. I'm not sure when he'll appear. I'm sure it'll be any second. um, yeah, this is going to be completely different from everything else we've done. And there he is. Okay. There he is.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Can you hear me all right?
I don't hear you very well. Oh, why is that?
Oh, okay.
My volume was down.
Oh, okay.
Cool. I'm trying to get rid. Oh, there we go. Yay.
Nice.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. This is so funny because you're my first stranger on my show, but
Oh, really?
one's a stranger on your show, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's crazy to be at like a third of the way through now.
Wow. Wait, am I really 3333?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm actually super excited about that.
Yeah. It's everyone this week has held so far. Last week I had a couple of people who didn't show, and sometimes I have people who have to cancel last minute. But so far this week, everyone has shown, which is awesome.
So the whole universe was conspiring to make me the number I wanted. Yeah.
Yes.
Am I the only person that's weird enough to ask for a specific number?
No, I've had people ask for them before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Uh, which is, yeah, so, I don't know. Sometimes people, there's like relevance. A lot of the times, I'd say like 2 times it's actually worked out. Because I just move and I don't meet with someone and then save it or anything like that. Like it is what it
Right.
is.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then you shifted into overdrive because, like, pandemic, boom. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
you're doing this because I started to notice you were doing super remote, far flung
Oh, yeah.
places in the
Yeah.
world, which is quite cool. Like,
That's been awesome today. Like today was Malaysia and then Austria and then London. So
that's so cool.
yeah, it's
That's cool. So, and it must be, it's a really cool time to hear what people are saying around the world. Like, I remember
it's
calling a tech support guy and I was like, so where are you anyway? Because it was a Virginia number. He's like,
mhm,
oh, I'm in Manila. It's like,
mhm,
really? What's going on in Manila? And we had this whole conversation that had nothing to do with why we were talking to each other.
yeah, it's who I have talked to people and like it doesn't matter wherever they are in the world, everyone is pretty much in quarantine. I was jealous today of the woman in Austria. Um, she lives like across the street from mountains and like a ski resort, and so she's like, my kids once we're done with homeschooling, we'll go out and like hike around our property and stuff. And I'm like, cool. I'm in my 2-bedroom apartment in the city, and we're instructed not to leave. And so
Wait, are you in New York City?
I'm in Hoboken, so I'm right across the river.
So you literally are stuck inside and can't go out more than like an hour.
Yes. I have only, and I don't know, I've only been outside twice in the last 2 weeks, I think. So, uh,
Oh my God.
but it's like, I mean, there's 3 of us here, and we have a dog in the household as well. It's my roommates, and so he's out and about walking it. I'm sure we could go out and like go for quick walks and stuff, but at this point, I'm just like, I'm okay enough, and I get to escape through talking with people, and it makes me feel like I'm in different areas, and so I'd rather just do my part and just stay in altogether.
Yeah. Wow. It's so
Hmm.
funny. Today I was about to do a yoga class at 11 And right as it happened, I was like, you know what? I want to go outside. It's such a beautiful day. And I just decided to
Mhm.
go like for an hour. I can walk for an hour out here in the woods and not see anybody.
Nice. That's awesome.
It's so awesome. In fact, the beaches are quite crowded. You know, remember originally I invited you to like come stay with me and like come out to the Hamptons and meet a whole bunch of my friends out here.
Right.
And all my
I
friends were
still
like,
have to do
"Of
that.
course you would say something like that, Tanya. Like
Hmm.
you're so weird that way." But now we don't really go to the beach because so many people came out here from the city and they're all going to the beach. So like
Hmm.
those of us who live here, we're kind of not. Um,
Yeah. I don't know. It seems, I feel like today was the first time that I woke up to a news article that seemed promising. And it was talking about certain parts of the country reopening or like people putting together plans to reopen. I feel like for the longest time, it was just, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. Like death tolls going up, this and that. And I kind of longed for a time when there would be a light at the end of the tunnel. And it kind of seems like we're at that point now. And it seems like there's a lot of work to go. Like today, we found out that we are, our like restrictions are in place until May 15th. So we'll be
that's
in
another
quarantine.
one.
Yeah, another month. So um, we'll be in quarantine for another month. But after that, we're like, if we could get out and like go to the bar and have a drink in June, that would be awesome.
But don't you have like do you do like Zoom cocktail parties and stuff?
We have, yeah.
Because my friends and I do that. We had a Zoom surprise 70th birthday party for my stepmother.
Nice.
And
That's
it was
awesome.
like
Yeah.
around the country and we're all dressed like top half only, James
Mhm.
Bond fancy.
Yeah.
That's
It's nice though that I connected with 3 high school friends last night who we're all good friends, but we don't really take the time to chat with each other. And then a lot of time with family and different friends from college. So it's cool because I think people are so bored at home that they're like craving that human connection. And so it's
mm,
forcing people to get it online. Um, and I think people are becoming, I think before people are like easily distracted by their jobs during the day and then easily distracted by their phones in the evenings and the free time. And now it's like you can only look at your phone so much before it becomes terribly boring. So they're turning to the human connection too, which I think is awesome.
I think you know more. I think you know more people with regular jobs than I do, um,
Hmm.
because my people are not bored. I mean, most of the people. Well, I know a lot of creative people and a lot of like spiritual speakers and workers and things like
Okay.
energy workers, energy medicine, yoga teachers, like a lot of those kinds of people.
Hmm.
And most of them are feeling super creative, like creative overdrive and physical exhaustion, like because they're like a lot of them are very empathic,
Yeah.
so they're feeling the pressure of the energy of like whatever this collective thing is,
Right.
and they're also like super on fire creatively. And I mean, even my boyfriend, he's a trainer, and like he's totally figured out how to do the online thing, and he has like different classes for different people, and he has the women who are in their 70s, and he has like he teaches my son up in Boston who's 21
Nice.
and does like a class for the 21, and meanwhile my boyfriend's 60, right,
Okay.
and he's like whipping the butts of the 21-year-old,
Nice. That's awesome.
which is super awesome. But he
Yeah.
just pivoted like that, and like he he never taught an online class before, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden is like, okay, what's this Zoom thing and how is this going to work for me? And it's great.
Yeah. I think it's cool. It's cool to see. I've been telling people like when the rules of the game change, you have to adapt to them. And it's cool to see how people are adapting. And obviously the ones who do it well are the ones who will continue to like see progress in their lives and see success. But yeah, it's crazy. And I feel like there's still a lot of unknown to come too. I feel like step one is make sure that we're all healthy. And then step two is, okay, how do we get the economy back in place? But uh, for me, uh, I I almost live somewhat of a freelance lifestyle where I survive off of partnerships from my project and hope to start surviving off of speaking opportunities. And right now I don't have any partnerships, so it's just back to survival mode for me. And
Hmm.
it's a place where I think people who are being furloughed or people who lose their jobs, there's a lot of anxiety around that. And for me, it's like an old friend almost, because I've lived like multiple times. I've had almost no money in my bank account, and I've found a way to come back. And so a lot of that fear in the past is something that I've found I've been able to manage. And now it's kind of like the stress is still there, but
Yeah.
mentally I'm able to keep moving forward.
Yeah. I think it's so important to just stay in the present because, yeah, I could freak out too. I mean,
Yeah.
photographer, am I out there shooting? Well, it's funny because I am actually doing remote shoots, but mostly I'm not shooting. And,
Mm-hmm.
everything that was extraneous spending, done. And
Right.
everything is just like food, focus, stay calm, and remember, like, it's not gonna keep going like this. It
Yeah.
it can't, it won't. And
Mm-hmm.
um, it's so funny. I do a lot of online courses. I'm doing one that's about miracles. It's
Okay.
called Your Year of Miracles, right? And I swear to God, they just keep popping up.
Hmm.
Like, just when you think photography is this, or just when you think your financial situation is that, or just when you think a thing's not going to happen, you don't know. Like,
Mm-hmm.
crazy stuff happens
Yeah.
every day. So
Yeah.
I actually like it. I have a friend who this is quite funny. So she owns a school. She's working on like how to bring that school online.
Okay.
Um, and she said, I feel like I'm the captain of a ship, and I'm like on my ship and I have my people and I have to get them safely across the water. And I was like, I think I'm a jellyfish in the water.
Okay.
I'm like, I am not leading anybody anywhere right now, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, what jellyfish
Along
do.
with
They
it.
just go like with the flow, and
That's
it's
nice
kind of
though.
trippy. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So I forget how, because I know we talked before, but how did you find my project?
Oh, so there's this very cool guy. In fact, I'll have him reach out to you because
Okay.
he would love you. You would love him. He is, his name is Srivanian.
Okay.
No, oh my God, he's going to kill me for getting this wrong.
Okay.
Srinivasan, I think. Um, he was a professor at the Columbia School of Journalism.
Okay.
I went to Columbia, but I didn't meet him there. I don't know, like, it's not how I know him. I
Yeah.
went to his social media weekend many, many years ago. And just over the years, we've become friends. Anyway, he has an interesting Facebook group
Mm-hmm.
that is a social media, like advanced social media group. Somebody posted about you in there back in December.
Okay.
And no one actually ever commented on that post because I know this because I just went back in there and said, I'm meeting Rob today. And the
Nice.
woman who posted it was like, oh, I'm so glad. And like, more people in this group should reach out to him.
Yeah.
And so Sri actually does an amazing show. He's doing a daily COVID show right now.
Okay.
And he's talking to people all over the world and just like this, but very like well produced. I mean, he literally
Mm-hmm.
is producing a TV show, and
Okay.
comments come on and they're like, whatever.
Nice.
When I first started my little thing, I thought, oh yeah, I'll have my son edit my videos for me. And he's like, Mom, I don't really have time for that. I was like, okay, then there will be no editing. Too bad. Like, that's just how it is. Um, anyway, so Sri is really like, he's a social media expert. He went from Columbia to running all digital for the Met Museum,
Okay.
the Metropolitan Museum. Um, and I remember I actually photographed him there on his last day. I asked if I could come and just, because I felt like it was such a shame that I kind of hadn't done that the whole time he'd been there. And we ended up getting some really great pictures, and he invented something called the Sphinxy, where you take a picture of yourself with the Sphinx and then you post it online. And like, social media engagement is his thing. So that's why you would love him and he would love you. And like, you never know who's watching his shows. And
Yeah.
he also does a really fun Sunday New York Times read along
Mm.
where he reads the New York Times, like you can just be sitting in bed drinking your coffee and he's kind of reading it to you. And then he has like guest experts and, um, maybe journalists, maybe doctors, whoever that come talk to you. Very cool.
Nice. I think I remember. Do you remember who posted the comment? Do you remember her name?
Well, hold on, I'll tell you,
'Cause I
because
think I'm gonna go into my email. How do you spell his name?
his name, Sree, Sree.
Oh, yes. Oh, I see. Yeah.
You see it? Oh, Carla Baranakis. Baranauckas.
Yes. Okay.
You
Yeah.
know,
She actually introduced me to him back in November.
oh,
Um,
there you
and we
go.
were trying to find a time, but I think he said last message I have from him is I'll be back in NYC during winter break in late Jan. Let's touch base then. Um,
I will hook you up today.
yeah. Sure.
Because he was actually doing a shout out asking for people for his show. Um, and I'm probably going to do one of my little shows with him. Uh,
Nice.
that's a whole other story. But yeah, I've been throwing like interesting ideas out to him because, that's like I'm a connector, he's a connector, and we have like super cool, interesting networks that don't overlap.
Nice. So
Um,
there's a lot of space for it to overlap.
yeah, it's really fun because I'm I'm sort of a lot in the creative and, like I said, the sort of spiritual, the energy, the woo woo, whatever
Hmm.
world. But I've always been in a sort of a bunch of different genres. I mean, that's what photography is, right? Like you never know who is going to show up in front
Yes.
of the lens.
Yeah. That's cool. How did you even get into photography?
Oh gosh. Uh, that's so hard to say. It sort of hit me um, within the last year that I think I had a crush on my English teacher in grammar school.
Okay.
He also was the PE teacher. He was the yearbook, the newspaper, and photography. And so, like, any excuse to go into a dark room with the cute teacher,
Hmm.
I think it was,
Okay.
which is
Nice.
like so lame. But I mean, yes, my dad gave me a camera. Yes, I have all the same, like, whatever stories that every photographer has. And my dad was always photographing me when I was a kid, and he was always printing stuff at home. But honestly, I think it's that my parents were getting divorced, and I had a crush on my English teacher, and he reminded me of my dad, and boom.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
then it turns out that it's like magic, right? I don't know if have you ever been in a dark room, or do you know?
I have not. I've heard a lot about it, and I think I would be interested in it, but I have never
Yeah,
been in one or seen the process. I've heard it's kind of like maybe even cathartic, I guess.
it's it's magic. It's like where alchemy happens right there. And you
Mhm.
stick a piece of paper under a lake for boom boom, and then you stick it in water and then a picture comes up. I mean, come on, there's like it's just not more magic than that, right?
Yeah.
um yeah, and I love that part of it. I worked at a commercial lab for a long time doing, like, I mean, I actually went to school for architecture. that was
Okay.
that's the Columbia connection. But um, I started working in a oh yeah, that was funny too. I started working in a lab in New York City. Um, but that started because I went home to visit friends. They were going
Hmm.
on a surf trip to Baja. I'm from San Francisco, and
Okay.
they wanted me to guard their stuff on the three guys. So I go on a surfing trip with three guys, and they're like, "Hey, Tanya, would you guard our stuff on the beach and take some pictures?" And I said,
Hmm.
"Oh, sure." And yeah, the next thing I knew, one of those guys had an uncle who was a fashion photographer in New York.
Hmm.
And I ended up working for him. And then I was sort of doing school and working for him at the same time. And then actually working for him was more fun than school. And I
Okay.
almost dropped out. I almost quit. Um, and I went on a very weird date with a very strange person who
Okay.
took me to one of the fanciest restaurants in New York. I was probably 20, 21 years old.
Mhm.
And, he was, I don't know, he was like a Wall Street banker or something. And he said, you have to finish, you have to graduate. If you don't, no one will ever understand why you didn't. Because I was literally like a semester or two away from having a Columbia diploma,
Okay.
but I was doing photography, so I didn't care. Like, I didn't think that was anything. I didn't think it was important. Um, in some weird ways, I still don't, but don't
Okay.
tell my parents.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and I remember thinking again, like that was a miracle, right? I mean, that guy comes into my path and tells me the same thing that my parents would have told me, but if my parents had told me, I wouldn't have listened, probably,
Mhm.
being the rebellious sort.
Okay.
And I never saw that guy again. Never went on another date, never had another dinner, nothing. But boom, total stranger says, "Oh, you must get your degree." And I'm like, okay, I guess I will.
Huh. That's crazy.
Have you ever
That's
had
cool
that?
though.
Like where someone tells you a thing and it changes, like literally changes your life. And you,
Of course.
yeah,
I think that's a like I believe that that is a thing that happens um I guess in life through chance, but I believe that you can create more of those opportunities by being intentional about connecting with people. And that's partially like why I'm so curious to meet 10,000 people. Like my life is constantly being molded and shifted by the people that I'm interacting with, and it's instead of it just being like a random one-off date, it's like, I might talk to you and you might tell me something that opens up my mind. Like, even for example, the girl I just met in London, completely different life path. She is about to pursue, she studied biotechnology in undergrad, got her master's in cellular pathology, and is now trying to get her PhD in the study of finding quicker ways to identify bacteria that degrade plastic to like help clean up in the ocean. And she said that she's looking at this site, find findmyphd.com or something like that. I have it written down somewhere. But as she was talking, I was thinking, I wonder if there is ever a way that I could spin my project into some type of PhD research where I could get funding just to do what I'm doing and then report on kind of, because I'm on such a niche path.
mm,
And so maybe that website would eventually, I mean, who knows, but that could be a connection to me doing a PhD, or like a simple line in a conversation can change the path of your life.
yes. And and but you're also not going through this looking for any particular thread, right? So you're completely open to the chance of what comes,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. I have no, I think the best way, I guess, to think about it is like how hindsight is 2020. I just want to do it. And then I'll look back afterwards and be like, oh, look at this. That's cool. Or that's an interesting connection. But I don't want to go through it saying I need to prove this or I have to define that. For me, it's just the experience of doing it.
Right, right. Which I think is how like Humans of New York started that way, I think, right? Um,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's funny because there was a point when I was interested in creating a book about prophets, and I call it Prophets Among Us, and I sort of started, but the real premise of the book is that we are all prophets in different phases of uncovering that awareness.
Mhm.
And so part of me wanted to go out and photograph all these people. I actually wanted to meet him, the Honey guy, I forgot his name. Uh,
Brandon.
Brandon, right. Um, and then at some point I thought, well, the message is that we're all prophets. And yes, I could do this. And it was taking me a ton of time and a ton of money. And, I was flying across the country and doing these portraits of people. And then I thought, but these are my prophets. These are people that speak to me. And how I resonate with a person is different from how you're going to resonate with a person. Um,
Yes.
I mean, the message is still valid. And it's funny because as a photographer, I have never been on camera. I've never done this like TV thing, um,
Okay.
until 2 weeks ago. I
Hmm.
started 2 weeks ago because Alec Baldwin did a little Instagram post, and he said, I would invite everyone to speak up and like record what you're going through right now. And I thought, God, you know what? You're right. And I don't have the bandwidth to like censor myself, edit myself, and write. I mean, I've been trying to keep my diary going for, I mean, I've had a diary for 20, 30, 40, whatever. I don't know how many years, my whole life.
Huh.
But I don't know, at some point you just let go of all the, it has to be a certain thing, and you just do what's easy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we're in right now. We're in a do what's easy moment. Um, so yeah, so Alec Baldwin said, okay, so record yourselves. And then I just did it, which is the weirdest thing ever. So
Hmm.
I like today is my 20th day. That's it, of like
Nice.
doing, like being in front of a camera. And you are literally like my 12th conversation. I just call them conversations
Nice.
with no
So
goal,
you,
no goal, no
nice.
project, no nothing. There's no money, there's no sponsor, there's no nothing. It's just like, this feels good to me, and I just want to do what feels good
Nice.
and see how that goes.
That's cool. Yeah. I like the idea of documenting this time, and that was, I had wanted to initially like put the project on pause and hold true to meeting every single person in person. But then I was having a conversation with this guy Chris, who runs a page called Special Books by Special Kids, and he's in a similar but different path. Like I don't deem what I do interviews, I in the same way consider them conversations. He's actually interviewing people with rare diagnoses from around the country, and so we were just chatting back and forth of the impact of it on our project and talking about the idea of going virtual. And he said, yeah, I think these are going to be historic times in line with times like the Great Depression, and so I think to document these times is to do a service to everyone around you. And so I thought that that was really cool, and that I had kind of thought of that as well. Like, I think it will be cool once this quarantine is over and hopefully the world resumes and there's not another pandemic that we have to deal with. I think it will be cool if you go through my page someday, that there will come a time where you swipe back and it's just pictures of us next to each other, like of selfies that we had taken because it was virtual, and then it continues into the in-person. It's just like a kind of a locking that period in time, or
Right. You
showcasing what
can
it was.
visually see that was like, that was the pandemic right there.
Yes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
an era of your Instagram. That's so cool.
Yes. Yeah. And kind of uh, in a people have always told me to do video with my project, and I've always stayed away from it. In person, it was difficult because I didn't know how to set up a camera to capture a conversation, um, and also when I've talked with people, a lot of times people will talk to me and they give me details of their lives, and they're like, "Don't write this in your story," but blah blah blah.
Yeah,
And I love the authenticity of that.
yeah.
But I have with these, since it's like, as you know, so easy to record. I actually I just included a video portion from my last conversation with the girl alongside our picture.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I think I might do that for every person going forward. So you'll have to send me this if you're comfortable afterwards, and I'll include
Absolutely.
a piece of it.
Well, I just posted on YouTube like as is. Um,
Oh, nice.
so yeah, and I'll send you the file as well. But um,
Sweet. Yeah.
yeah, and you know what? I think that's great. I think that's great that you're open to it shifting. And I mean, I think it's great to have a plan, and also like great that you're willing to deviate.
Yes. It's funny you say that because I just, on my feed, I follow everyone that I meet after I meet with them. And so my Instagram is just full of people that I've previously met.
Uh-huh.
And there was a picture of a girl as a nurse with her mask on. And so I went back to reread her story. And her story, she had one of my favorite quotes from anyone. She said, "I like to make plans and hold them loosely." And I always thought that that was such a great way to go through life, to
Beautiful.
like have an idea of where you want to go, but not be afraid to like shift within that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny too, because I say this thing about photography that people think that what I do is I give them photographs. They think that the photo is the thing. And I've been trying to explain for years that the photo is the byproduct of the connection that we have. So our connection, whatever that energy is, leads to whatever it leads to in the day. And again, like I'll have a plan for a shoot and then boom, oh, but that's a nice tree. And the next thing I know, we're doing something completely different.
Yeah.
And then the photo itself becomes an experience. So it's an experience, it's an energy connection. And then the photo is just like almost the afterthought to me. Like, you know what I mean? It's,
Right.
they didn't go in with, this is what it's going to look like. This, I would never be a good advertising photographer.
That's cool though.
Because they literally show, like for advertising, they give you a picture of what they want that they call it swipe. Like they literally swiped it from someone else and they
Okay.
show you what they want and you're supposed to do that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not really what I wanted to do.
Uh-huh. That's cool. I like that approach. So what, so I'm just gonna recount your life in my mind and see if I have it correctly. Like all right, so you had the crush on your English teacher, and then your parents got you a camera, or your dad got you a camera, and then you're in school at Columbia for architecture, and then you were surfing in San Francisco, and took pictures while your friends were surfing. The one's uncle was a fashion photographer in New York, and then you started working with him alongside, or him or her, alongside your uh, degree, and then you went on the date with the person, and then you finished your degree. So then did you just continue on into photography? Like what?
Um, so yes, let me think, how did this go? I got the degree, but I was already working full time. So the photographer that I worked with first was a fashion photographer. Was married to a model. He had worked for some very famous photographers, Bruce Weber. I don't know if you've heard of him, but um, he'd been his assistant. Anyway, his father died that summer that I was working for him. I assisted him maybe once, maybe twice. I mean, mostly I worked in his office, but he just didn't have enough to keep me going because of his own personal, like what was happening.
Okay.
And he said to me, oh, you should go work in a lab. Like photographers don't know enough about that. And my father would have said the same thing. Like my father's an architect and he would say the same thing about architects. They don't know anything about building. You should go work on a construction site,
Hmm.
which is what my sister did and then became an architect. So I went to
Okay.
go work in a lab and I was in the lab. So printing like Bruce Weber's work or Herb Ritz or Stephen Meisel, who are all like really big fashion photographers, but also meeting photographers there and then getting assisting jobs. And I just went on and did that for a couple of years. So I was sort of full-time working and full-time student for a little bit. But it was great. It was such a great time to be in New York. And this was the early 90s.
Okay.
Um, it was just, I mean, and it's funny because people would say, like, why didn't you go to San Francisco, back to San Francisco? Well, first of all, I didn't want to. I didn't really like it as much as I liked New York. And there wasn't anything you could do there. I mean, the only thing happening was still life and food photography. And if you wanted to do fashion or anything like that, you had to be in New York. Um,
Okay.
so it was like, and then I would assist different people. I met an agent, and the agent, I guess it had been of that photographer. He would then hire me out to all of his other people. So I was meeting so many people. I mean, I could go on and on and on. Like, I had lunch with James Brown because
Oh,
we're doing a shoot for Interview Magazine, or the day we shot Winona Ryder, like, you know, with, and I just learned so much from what? I like things where my learning curve is like this, straight up.
nice.
And that's what it was. And I was just learning and learning and learning
When
until,
you
go ahead.
go ahead, I'll come
Say
in
until
afterwards. My
the
question.
day when um, I was going to get a check from another agent for a job, just regular fashion job. Actually, one of my favorite female fashion photographers, Pamela Hansen. And the agent said, "Hey, would you be interested in shooting a wedding?" And I was like, "Ooh, wedding? Yeah."
Mhm.
I was like, what, 24, maybe 23, 24. Um, Weddings were so not cool. And they were the worst kind of photographers and all of that. And I said, well, if I could do it my way, like if I could shoot it like kind of documentary style and black and white film and not have to do that post crap that they do. And she was like, that's exactly what I want. So I went in like a fashion photographer going to shoot a wedding. This was 1991. That day changed my life. I spent the next 30 years shooting weddings all over the world. Um, you know, whatever, celebrity,
Wow.
private people, CEOs. I mean, I met my husband there, so I have a child as a result of this. Like my whole life changed.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nuts. I was gonna say, um, when you were taking the photos on the beach in San Francisco, were you already a skilled photographer at that point, or were you just a hobbyist? Like, had you developed it from childhood into your college age?
Um, I did. I did do a what do you call those things? The AP class. Um,
Hmm.
I did an AP fine art or like AP studio art um, thing in high school with a concentration in photography.
Okay.
And yes, I was the yearbook editor and like all of that stuff. I'm like part archivist and like part historian and I don't know, collector of other people's lives.
Nice. Yeah, I can relate.
Yeah, I mean, some people say that what I do is like it's hard to explain, but I've sort of only ever, and I say this about all photographers actually, that a photographer is only ever telling you who they are. They're only ever documenting themselves. So if you want to know who a photographer is, look at what they're shooting because what they're shooting is their mirror. First of all, we're all choosing it, right? So I was literally shooting the life of a woman over time. So it started with fashion, 20, and like that's what we care about, and then weddings, like wedding for a long, long time. Then I started shooting kids when I was like 7 months pregnant, and I was like chasing two little boys up and down a hill, and
Hmm.
like wait. And then I was shooting families, and now I've sort of aged out of all of like yes, I'll still do a wedding, or I still shoot families, but the thing I'm more interested in now is strong women or leaders or business owners or some people call it branding photography. I don't even know where I'm going next, but it's
Okay.
it's always the reflection of my life.
Nice. That makes sense.
It's just a how it rolls thing. Um,
Yeah. And did you grow up in San Francisco? Is that where you're originally from?
um, I moved there when I was 4. I was born in Massachusetts in Arlington.
Okay.
My dad went to graduate school uh, in Boston and then was working in Boston. And um, at some point, this is like 1970, Pan Am Airlines existed and had a ticket you could buy that was a one-way ticket around the world. And my mom said, we need that ticket. Like, we need 4 of those tickets because I was 4, my sister was 2. My parents were 30. If you can imagine this, okay, imagine you, right? With
Yeah.
in 2 years with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old saying, yeah, let's just get on a plane and go around the world for 8 weeks with 2
Hmm.
small kids. And you couldn't buy diapers in all these other places they were going. Like they literally had to pack the diapers they were going to use to travel with.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, that's how we ended up in San Francisco. But my parents also met there. They met as freshmen at Stanford. So they met at their first mixer of the year. They got married 4 years later. So like the whole San Francisco east west thing it wasn't that crazy.
Okay.
Um, so all of my family is in California. Like
Okay.
my grandparents used to be in San Francisco and um, Santa Barbara.
So the Pan Am ticket was San Francisco, like what the last
No,
stop,
so
or
we left Boston. We left Boston
okay,
and went all the way around and like went to like all over Europe, and then Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, India, Japan, San Francisco.
huh?
It's funny because we like there are a whole bunch of places we didn't go. Like we didn't go to Russia, which I guess in 1970 we probably couldn't have.
Okay,
I lived in Russia for 2 years, like mid 90s. Um, so anyway, that whole trip around the world like set up my whole life to be constantly traveling.
okay,
Like I'm always traveling, or well, was.
yeah. And what now? Where is home for you now?
This place where I am right now is Sag Harbor, New York. It's
Okay, and this is like where you live.
yeah, yeah. That's
Okay,
where you were going to go visit. Like you can still come. You're still invited to the Hamptons anytime.
thank you.
um, yeah, it's. I don't know. Have you ever been out to the Hamptons at all?
No, to me it's just like a land that I hear about.
Oh,
Uh, that seems like a fun place to visit, but I have not.
yeah.
I'd like to go someday though.
The stories are not the reality. I mean, the stories are one reality, like with
Hmm.
anything. So yes, like lifestyles of the rich and famous, that's totally here.
Okay.
But then there's this whole other reality that's my reality, which is
Hmm.
like it's full of healers here. It's full of artists and writers and people from all over the world. Like I have so many, my boyfriend's Brazilian. I've got
Okay.
tons of German friends around here. Yeah, I actually met this really interesting guy from Pakistan at the 7-Eleven. Oh my God, that's such a crazy story. But yeah, I met him years ago. I photographed Malala. I don't know if you know who she is, but the Pakistani girl that
Yes.
shot and like spoke up against the Taliban, and now she's like an education advocate.
Hmm.
Anyway, the day her movie came out, there was like a full page New York Times article. I go down to buy it because it was my picture, right? So I was like, woohoo, I'm in the New York Times. And I go to buy the paper, and I told the guy at the 7-Eleven, I was like, I want 10. He's like, what?
Hmm.
I said, what time do you throw them away? You know, because at the end of the day, they cut off the masthead and throw them away. And I was
Oh, I
like,
didn't know that.
this is that's what newspaper people do, and they recycle them at the end of every day. And I said, well, I just want them at the end of the day when I don't have to pay $5 a piece for, you know, a whole stack of these.
Hmm.
And he said, why do you want it? And I showed it. I showed him the picture of Malala, like full page, and he burst into tears
Hmm.
at the 7-Eleven. And I was like, what? You know, and I said, do you know her? And he said, no, but like, she's my hero. And he told me the story about how he was set on fire alive
Wow.
when he was in Pakistan by the Taliban. And like, he knew exactly how they were affecting his country. And it was just so moving to see, I don't know, like, I live for that. I live for that kind
Hmm.
of connection
Yeah.
that it's so random that it's like this, you know, this is so random. It's like the most awesome thing in the world. That's what I
Hmm.
think.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're the biggest genius I know.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
it's it, you know, did you read the Malcolm Gladwell book,
um,
Talking to Strangers?
I did not read it. I've read a lot of his other books, and he is probably my favorite author.
Oh,
But that like I was interested in that, and then Brian Grazer. Are you familiar with him?
mm-mm.
He's a Hollywood producer. He did 8 Mile, American Gangster, Apollo 13, the 24 series. But he had written this book called A Curious Mind, which is a really good read. And it talks about, so essentially, every 2 weeks, he does these curiosity conversations with someone outside of the film industry. And the book is like him talking about how those conversations have impacted his career and sometimes impacted the way that he's produced films. And
Oh, wow.
so me building a career out of just randomly talking with people, I found that interesting. And then so Malcolm Gladwell came out with Talking with Strangers, and around the same time Brian Grazer came out with this book called Face to Face: The Art of Human Connection, I think.
Hmm.
um, and I was on my list to read both of them because I'm curious as to what they have to say, because I also at this point feel like I probably know enough about human connection as they do to be like, they're right about this, or I would do this differently. But yes, all that to say, I've heard of it, but I still haven't read it yet.
So, well, I haven't read it either. I have it over on the shelf of many books that aren't read yet.
Nice.
um, but I'm sure it's going to be really good. And I'm sure you could write your own version of whatever that is. I mean, he's going to have his approach, but
Yeah, yeah, someday we'll see.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious because I really like the way that he. I was just talking about Outliers today with the first girl I met because we were
Mm.
talking about our favorite books, and I like the way that he looks at things from a different perspective than most people would. And I just like that approach to life. And I think that's where a lot of creativity is born.
Yeah. Does it still feel creative for you? Like, I mean, you're whatever, you're 3,333 people into it. Like, is it still fun for you? And is that
Oh yeah.
like, just is the changing of how you're doing it helping?
It's always fun for me. I think the changing is a cool new chapter. It's interesting to me because like the project maintains my interest because the backstory of people is always changing, and a lot of times the location is changing, whether I'm in Bryant Park or if I'm like in a cafe or wherever. Here is cool because I'm sitting in this room literally all day, but like I said, mentally I'm in Malaysia and I'm in Austria and different parts of the world, and I get to imagine what life is like, and I get to hear people describe that. So that keeps it fresh. But yeah, the stories are always maintaining interest. Like I have never talked about bacteria that are going to degrade plastic before with anyone, and I learned about that today. And I like those intelligent, educated conversations. But then even I think it
Hmm.
was either last week or 2 weeks ago, I met a girl who survived a mass shooting in Serbia. She was shot 6 or 7 times, was in a coma for 8 days. Her leg had to be amputated. She lost movement in her right hand. She's a computer programmer
Oh my God.
and like the most positive girl. And we were just talking about that. And she was sharing things like now she still continues to go out to like events and concerts and stuff. It happened at a festival um, because she's like a strong mental person, and she's like, I know this affects me, but I want to overcome it. But she was telling me about the details of when she is getting dressed to go out to a bar, she still starts to sweat, and she's like, I know that's not what I want to do, but she's like, my subconscious just produces that because it knows it's tied to such a traumatic event. And so that was the first time I'd ever heard a story like that. And there's so many differences in it. And so I think that will always keep me interested. And I think as my project continues to grow and as it, like right now, it's done in such a lean way in the fact that I crash with friends who are willing to host me and I don't spend money on anything other than the necessities. But I do think someday I will have a budget to go travel, and I think I'll have a budget to do like cool activities with people. And so I think that will make it even more interesting in the future. So I'm excited for that. It just seems like doors are constantly opening, and the path is fun to be on. Because outside of it, like end of last year, I was a guest on Kelly Clarkson's talk show, and that was a national talk show, and the whole audience was made up of people that I had met in Los Angeles through my project. And
Seriously?
yeah,
Oh my God. So the
yeah,
audience was all your friends.
it was, I would say like 90%. It's on YouTube. I'll have to send you the link, but yeah, they wanted it to be all people from my project, and there was like 10 or so people they had to fill the audience with for
That's,
of having a full audience, but they played a game with me where they were going around picking people out and they wanted me to tell them about them.
did you?
So for most, there's some that I didn't know, but those were the people that they filled the audience with. And but then there are people that I did know, and some people I could only remember their name. Other people I could remember exactly where we met and what we taught.
You know what?
But
I can see Ellen doing that with you. She's gonna.
yeah,
I totally see you on Ellen. So
yeah, it's funny. I think
and she's just gonna like she's gonna fuck with your head.
probably, yeah, someday. I understand that my project, I get a lot of feedback that it has like a feel good vibe to it, and so I know that like now having gone through certain media things, I know that places are always looking for new stories to share, and so I think mine will become more interesting the more people that I meet, and so I wouldn't doubt it if someday down the road, maybe once I've met 10,000 people, maybe before then, I end up connecting with her. But um, yeah, I'm just like excited to go down the path because all of these things happen, and all of those things, both inside the project and out, are what make it continuously exciting.
Yeah. Well, and I also, I mean, it's funny. I shouldn't have said anything about like Ellen because I'm not even a believer in like big celebrity as a thing or a way. I mean, they're great. They're people. They do interesting stuff. I mean, oh my God, I love what Jimmy Fallon's doing right now with the Tonight Show. I mean, he lives like a couple
Okay,
miles from here, and his kids are like
nice.
doing the cards and stuff, and it's great.
Yeah.
And the people that you're talking to are just as creative and just as impressive and just as cool. And you're getting like the world's greatest free education. Um,
Hmm.
in some areas, I mean, when you're learning stuff, and
Right.
or you are creating a ripple effect that like you personally are affecting the world. It's not just they're affecting you, you're affecting them.
Hmm.
um, like you don't even know who you're touching. um, and I love that. I think that's the point of life, is that you
Hmm.
are supposed to do you the best that you can do you.
Yeah, it's funny because I think so like when people talk about the positive impact of the project and stuff, I don't really think about that because selfishly I'm like I'm just having fun. Like
You're just in it, right?
enjoy meeting people, and I
Yeah.
the same way that you see the photos as a byproduct of the connection, I see my stories and posts as a byproduct of the connection, and
Yeah.
I'm like it's nice. It's funny. I don't often think about who is it being impacted or who it could touch
Yeah.
because I just enjoy it and I put it out and I'm having fun with it too.
Yeah, which is what you're supposed to do, really. I mean, there's a guy, he's like this big motivational speaker, who I know. His name is Kyle Cease, and he's funny. He's like comedy meets Tony Robbins, kind of. That's what the vibe.
Okay.
And he wrote a book about money, and he basically, I mean, you know, the whole premise is that money is an illusion anyway. And he said, just follow your tens. And I remember I read that on a day when somebody offered me a particular job,
Hmm.
shooting a wedding, um, and it was with her. And I just felt like, ooh, that feels like a four. You know, when I heard the details, and then she was like, and there's 500 people and they want it to be really intimate. I was like, that feels like a two.
Hmm.
And it was a lot of money. And I said no. And that was really hard for me to do. But I trusted that motto of follow your tens. And
Hmm.
boom, 3 days later, somebody else wants to buy some of my art, and it's like twice the money of the wedding.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, okay. Notice that miracle, because that's really, really powerful. And
Hmm.
notice how good it feels. I mean, that moment when she said, you know, oh, I love the piece and I want to buy it, and by the way, I want to buy like more than one. I mean, I felt like I was selling it to someone I love, who she was already a client anyway. And I was selling my art, which I love, to someone I love. So I was like, that's a 20. On a scale of 1 to
Nice.
10, that's a 20. So I think,
That's
yeah,
cool.
if you follow your heart with these things, and then they lead you awesome places.
Yeah, that's kind of a good segue, and maybe part of your answer. But I wanted to ask, like, if you looked at your life, what you thought the, I guess, differentiating factor would be between you, who has done like the photography and the weddings, traveling all over the world, and sat and had lunch with James Brown and whatnot. Like, what has placed you on that path as opposed to someone who was committed to photography and they just, like, it didn't work out for them? What do you think the qualities were? Is it like, I'll let you tell me what you think.
Well, about okay, so I'll tell you two quick things. One is uh, when I was working on the book about prophets, and right around when I realized that we're all prophets. Actually, you know what? It was Malala who said that. She's the one who said, because I said, oh, I'm doing this book. And I had already started the book before her, but I wanted to tell her about it. And I knew that using the word prophet with someone who's Muslim could be, I didn't know what it would be. I didn't know if it would be
Okay.
okay or not okay. And different people respond differently because it's a loaded word. And
Hmm.
she was like, no, I love that. I think it's such a great idea. And I said, oh, I would put you in the first page, because she was one of the transitional people for me. And she said, well, you know who has to go on the last page? And so she told me that I had to go on the last page. And I was like, oh my God, that was a lot for me to take in at that
Yeah.
time. I was also breaking up with my boyfriend of 10 years. So we were never married, but like, traumatic does not begin to cover um, that experience and what I was going through. And that's when I also noticed that one of the common denominators of people that I call prophets tends to be a near-death experience. And that doesn't mean death, but sometimes it does, like the woman that you described who was shot
Yeah.
in mass shooting. But sometimes it's a horrible divorce or a horrible breakup or whatever it is. It's your burning down and rising up again, which, by the way, it's happening for the whole planet. If
Yeah.
you haven't had yours already, you're having it now. Like,
Hmm.
this is your breakdown. This is your breakthrough. What are you going to do with that? So it's always been a struggle for me to just say I'm a photographer, because that's not really enough. That doesn't really cover it. And then I went on a trip to India with this amazing spiritual teacher who I wanted to include in the Prophets book. Um, Her name is Sue Morter, Dr. Sue Morter. And just one day we're walking around somewhere and we're like near the tree that the Buddha sat under. And she says to me, have you ever thought about teaching photography? And I said, oh, no, because I don't care. Like, there's a million ways you can learn how to take a better picture, or, shutter speeds and f-stops. And I said, that's not, I don't know how to teach what I do, because that's not what I do. It's not shutter speeds and f-stops. It's energy work. And she said, well, that's what I mean. I think you should be teaching photography as a spiritual practice, because what you're teaching and what I'm teaching are the same thing. And you're doing it with the language of photography. And so every time I'm about to quit and say, ugh, I just don't know how to be a photographer anymore, I realize that what I'm actually doing is transformational work. It's energy work. It's healing work. It just uses the language of, I don't use shutter speeds and f-stops, but it's the language of connection and experience and presence, and being aware of my surroundings, and being like aware of the energy of the person I'm working with. So that's why it's so funny for me that I turned on the camera on myself, because this is the same work. I'm just doing it without the camera. It's still the work of connection. And, like, I mean, some of the conversations that I have are like kind of, intimate and vulnerable. And I do photos where people are just like, oh, I feel horrible. I look fat. I don't want to, like, there's so many things that go into being vulnerable enough to let someone photograph you.
Mm.
And that's really, it's hard. There's, most of my clients come to me and say, I look horrible in pictures. I hate being photographed. These are the top two things people say.
Mm.
And I consider it my job to turn that perspective around and help them realize that they're getting what they're giving. And if you shut down a wall, if you like close yourself off to people, of course you're going to hate the photo, because you're not going to get what you don't give, and you have to give it first or two or whatever. And I love people, and like I can tell you're the same kind of, this is why I want to talk to you in the first place, because I can tell
Yeah.
you're the same kind of person. You're the guy that's like, I drop something in the line at the coffee shop and we start a conversation and we like talk for 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You're that guy. And
Yeah.
I'm that girl. And not everybody's like that. Some people are just like, yeah, here's your dollar, go away.
True.
Whatever. So it's
Yeah.
not, so that's the thing. Like my photography isn't photography, and it's morphing into something else, and I'm not even sure what it is. And I know that this time is important for it, and I don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a little bit like you, where I just said, you know what, I'm just going to do this thing that feels kind of cool. And I don't know, maybe that becomes a thing.
Yeah. Just let it take shape along the way.
Maybe, right? Yeah. So I'm very open to whatever happens. And, I love that. I love that people get excited about my pictures, or, are happy to have them in their house, or, um, I'm supposed to do all those things. Like you're supposed to specialize, and you're supposed to say you do this one thing really well. Well, I would be so bored if I just did one thing.
Yeah. 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 I like when your brand can become that you do all of the things, like
I
that
hate
in
that I
itself
have to
is
call it a
amazing.
brand. Like, I hate that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Are you aware that you are a brand now, Rob?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
My older brother is helping me with my project, and he's more business minded. I'm more artistic minded, and yeah, sometimes he want with for good reason too. Sometimes, like as I begin to try to become a speaker and stuff, he's like, you should have a logo, and you should have like this that you can send out, like the media kit and stuff. And I have always been like, oh, I'll get where I need to go, but he's been a good resource in that aspect. But yes, I'm aware that I'm becoming that hesitantly.
So hopefully you have a whole family of people that will just do things for you, right?
Maybe we'll
So that
see.
you can
Yeah,
just keep doing you, because yeah, it sucks when you have to do all of those other things yourself.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see. I don't know. That's like same way. My whole life is following the gut feeling and letting it unfold and building the pieces as I go along.
That's brilliant. So you're like a case study in going with the flow. You're a jellyfish too, aren't you?
Yeah, in a way. Yes.
You're probably a better swimmer. Maybe you're more like an octopus. Smart, going this way.
We'll see. Yeah, I felt in the beginning a little bit of the I need to lead people through this thing too, and then I realized that I just need to keep doing what I'm doing with my life, and people will take it or leave it as they always will.
Yeah. Do you know what's do you do astrology, or do you know anything about astrology? Have you spoken
I
to an
met
astrologer?
I have, and she sent me a reading. I don't remember. I think like I know I'm a Capricorn because I'm January 1st.
Hmm.
I think I was like Aries rising. No, Aquarius rising. I think it was Aquarius rising. Um, and I think that's all that I know. But I would have to look back at the chart.
Oh, that's funny. I should send you to my astrologer friend Lori. She
Sure.
she could just talk to you for an hour in like astrology terms and totally like blow your mind, explaining explaining you to you.
Yes.
Yeah, you would love it.
Huh. Yeah, I'm open to the introductions. Anyone who you think would be interesting, I'm down to meet
Oh
with.
yeah. Oh yeah. This connector wants to connect you with all
Nice.
kinds of fun and games.
Yes, I appreciate that. Um,
You ever heard of human design?
no.
Okay. I'm gonna hook you up with her too.
Okay.
Because there's a woman I just spoke to. She's, believe it or not, I'm actually in a branding class, and
Okay.
yeah, like I hate it. I'm trying to learn it, trying to figure it out, trying to do it.
Yeah.
My website's horrible and old, but this woman Fiona Wong, I did a remote photo shoot for her, and so in exchange, she did a human design reading for me, and oh my God, she explained so much. It helped me. It helps me operate better.
Okay.
Just knowing that, like, I'm a projector. I need to be invited to do things. I'm not like a manifesting generator or whatever that I thought I was.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I got some fun. I got a whole list for you. Just
Yeah.
what you
Let me
need.
know. Yeah.
Rob's 100,000 friends.
I know. I'm getting a lot of introductions now, and I have a lot of people who, um, like you, like I've talked to them in the past, and they reached out again, and so sometimes it becomes overwhelming to manage everyone, but people are understanding. So just like I said, making my way through it.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
hope you get out a little bit more and get a little more like fresh air and sunshine and exercise, and I don't know. It sounds kind of hard to be in a small apartment. Like, I know it would be so hard for me to be in New York City
Mm-hmm.
right now or in Hoboken right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's good. I'm not at the point yet where
It's
I'm
not making
freaking
you
out.
crazy yet.
No, so if necessary, I'll make sure I get outside, but looking forward to that becoming the norm again.
Cool.
Yeah. Um,
Cool. Well,
but
I'm guessing you probably have like more call. How many calls do you do a day?
uh, 4, and you are my last today, but I am talking with another woman afterwards. She's like putting together a book on and just like having people answer in 15 minutes a question of how they establish rapport with people quickly. So I was introduced to her through another person that I met, and so I have a call with her after this, but I will write about you in the meantime.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's the other reason I gave up the editing. I was like, I just can't, like, any level of work over. Yeah, no, I'm just not there. You're very impressive that you sit and write, and that's a good part. That's a good aspect of what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's in the same way. That's why I don't write notes or anything like that, and um, it's kind of like what is in my mind is what goes, and then it goes out, and so
Oh, beautiful.
s- slightly edited. But yeah, you'll have to send me this the file to this too, so I can post like a little clip
Yeah.
um, to my. Well, I'll include it with our picture in the post.
I love that. So actually what you're doing is also a spiritual practice, because the amount of presence that you have to have in order to do what you're doing it's off the charts. Like you're
Oh yeah.
showing up 100%, well, 110%, you know, whatever, 4 conversations a day with completely different people,
Mhm.
things going on. That is,
A
that's
lot
like,
of a lot of active listening.
yeah, that's like Yoda level.
Yeah, working on it.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, you'll have to send me a picture too. I always tell people like in this time, I'm just having
Hmm.
people take a selfie on their phone and
Hmm.
message it to me on Instagram.
I can do it right now. Hold on.
Yeah, you can do it uh, whenever you want. It
I
doesn't have to be right now.
I
Uh,
I came up with a really cool method for doing, because my Facebook photo is a new photo that I just made,
okay.
because I'm doing this camera thing, because I'm actually always super conscious of my background, and this, I know my light's good here. And so I
Yeah.
I take my phone, and I don't know where my thingy is. Oh, it's not here. Have you ever seen the tentacle? It looks like little octopus suction cups, and I stick it
Okay.
on the back of my computer, and then I take my phone and I stick that above so then I can see, because I use the camera on the back.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Oh, because
And I
it's
shoot
better.
a
Yeah.
video, then I just run the video.
Hmm.
So instead of shooting a still, You get a much better result if you, and then you just move a little bit and you like do this and you go forward and you're like my head like this and my head like this. And maybe that's a girl thing, but whatever. I mean, as a
Yeah.
photographer, that's what I do for a selfie because I can't get my arm far enough away for
Hmm.
what I would consider, like I would never take a picture with a wide angle lens. That's not nice.
Okay.
Not nice to
That's
do.
a good method though. I'll have to use that too for times when I don't have a stranger in the future to take my photo.
Yeah, well, just like shoot a video and then grab a screenshot is such a like good cheap trick.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think that's a good method. I will use that.
Cool.
Um, yeah, sweet. Well, I'm glad we actually had the chance to connect and uh, keep me posted someday. I'll make it up to the Hamptons to see what they're all about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
this is the cool one because this is the old whaling town, so pirates and like cool stuff.
nice.
Um, it's not all shishi and whatever.
Sweet. I like it.
All right,
Nice.
so I'll send you all kinds of stuff, pictures and files and names and all kinds of things.
Perfect. Nice. All
It's
right.
great talking to you.
You
Good
too.
luck. Good luck with this
Thank you.
whole amazing journey.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Okay, bye.